And
So I wouldn't make a mistake. You were Duncan Davies.
Yeah, ex-grid keeper, now Celestial Paladin.
Oh my God! Well, I'm calling you Duncan Davies, the grid keeper.
That's a long story, so I won't go into that.
I'll need to go into CinemaScope to get that then. Celestial. Yeah. You better tell me how to spell that.
Celestial Paladin.
Yeah, no, on an email or something so I can copy and paste it.
Sorry.
Well, obviously we're taking things very seriously here, and I'm just going to do this. We've got Duncan Davies here, and he's called in from a galaxy far, far away because we had the Revolver film on, specially to deal with all this. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things you want to talk about.
Yeah, because I think we've left it long enough for a lot of people to go and watch it. And I know a lot of my friends have watched it. And I've even explained it in more detail to some of my friends. And it's just the looks on their faces. They're like, oh, my God. I'm like, yeah, it's right there in front of you. You know? And I'll explain that at the end, why it's there in front of you.
Well, we did have an interesting comment from Christine. Maybe I don't want to use her name, but she did leave a couple of messages, and I sent those on to you. So maybe that could be something you... Yeah?
Yeah. No, I won't go into that.
Okay.
No, don't need to do that. I'll tell you that after. But so the movie... For me, that movie is, you know, I watched it probably 5 times in my life. Never had a clue what was going on, really. And, you know, you read the reviews. Everyone, even though I watched a parapsychologist do a half-hour review on it today, and they all say the same thing. It's all about the ego. Well, it sort of is, but there's something behind that they don't ever want you to know. And that's where I come in, because I know. And I think people have the right to know. And one thing that a lot of people might relate to when we discuss what we're about to talk about is the mud shadows. And Carlos Castaneda, in his books, especially, I think it's The Fire from Within, he talks about the mud shadows and how they possess people, basically. And that's what we're talking about. So when we talk about the Zion Parasite, we're talking about the mud shadows. And to understand the mud shadows fully, apart from reading Castaneda books, is it's on my YouTube channel from a couple of months ago, and it's a video called Remote Viewing Reptilian Consciousness. And it's a video that Tim did with Rents about 20 years ago.
I did, just because you've confused things about... you're no longer Grid Keeper. What's your YouTube channel?
I know it's still Grid Keeper.
Okay.
I haven't changed it yet.
Okay, no, you probably just have to stick by that. Okay.
Yeah. So the mud shadows and where is it? So remote viewing, and Tim remote viewed Reptilian Consciousness, and it's an amazing thing to listen to. Especially now. I think 20 years ago, not many people understood what he was talking about. But he explains how the reptilians are used for the human attention to focus on. And the more the human attention focuses on reptilians, the easier they are to become possessed by supernatural spirits. Something that's not really talked about, or very few would even understand that. So going back to the film, I suppose we'll start at the beginning. Now, I'm not going to go through it in amazing detail, but I'm just going to...
Oh, please.
Add
amazing detail, or just detail.
Add some bits to some of the stuff that you read out before. So we're talking about the Zion Parasite, and Zion stands for something. And when you've been taken over by this Zion Parasite, it changes your natural behaviour. And we call that a zombie installation operating negatively, which translates to just a human possessed by a chaos entity, basically. And you have that voice in the back of your head. So whenever so it's like, when something goes wrong in your life and you panic and you fret about it, and it's like it's the end of the world. Oh my God! Whoa, 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 whoa. and then you get through it. Everything may go wrong and fall apart, but a few months later, you bounce back, maybe respectively, and you're okay, and you look back on it. Most people that I talk to say, oh, yeah, I got through that. It wasn't that bad. At the time, it was an absolute nightmare, and I thought it was the end of the world. And then something else comes up in their life, and they do it again and again and again and again. That's the Zion parasite, because what it does, it turns up your emotions. It makes you react in a way that you don't need to, because it's just an incident in this infinite life. and it's very minuscule compared to everything else. So there's no need to worry about it. And that's what these parasites do. And when a lot of people that commit suicide, it's the voice in the head. And, science...
Now, I've been asked about this. Yeah. What's the difference between the voice in the head and intuition?
And intuition. Intuition is more of a knowing. I find it hard to explain. It's like you just know and you can see it. The voice is it gives you doubt. Yeah, you can doubt anyway. It's, we're human. We can doubt things, but you tend to doubt too much. And everything becomes negative, and it's just the voice, and it sounds like you're having a conversation with something. That's more of what it is. When you actually lose the parasite, it took me 2.5 years to lose mine. And I just woke up one morning and everything was quiet. And I mean, like, you stop thinking there's nothing, and there's just everything around you, and it's silent. Now, I live on a farm, and there's lots of wildlife, woodpeckers and stuff. So it's more noticeable for me to notice that. And then what happens? You start to not have that voice that's making you hate someone, and you're not sure why you're doing it, or whatever reason. There's a zillion reasons they can get in your head and make you think things about people. And while you're thinking those things about someone else, whether they be true or right or wrong or not, you're actually psychically attacking them, which isn't good for anyone. And then what happens once you get rid of the Zion parasite? Most people say, oh, I haven't got one of them. No, you have. Until you get rid of it, you don't know. And life starts to change around you. Things become easier. You make decisions better, and it's you. Unless you've done it, it's a hard thing to really wrap your head around, because most people don't know any different. How they are is normal, but it's not. So how do you get someone to understand that without actually losing it? So anyway, go back to the film. So at the beginning, Jason Statham goes to prison, and he gets a choice of 7 years solitary or 14 years full-term prison. He chooses 7 years. Now, when you look at where he is, he's in the middle of 2 other cellmates, and one of the cellmates is a master chess player, and the other one is a master con artist. And they play chess by passing a book to Jason Statham with all their notes in it, and it's got the chess move on one of the pages. Now, while this is happening over the 7 years, Jason Statham's learning everything they know, and he thinks he's stealing that off them, sort of thing. He's getting one up on them. What he doesn't know is that they're teaching him, which is the sole purpose of passing the book through there. And the chess player, he's a bit more than a chess player. He's an Enochian magician. 77 to 49, and 49 are the keys of Enoch, the Enochian keys. I'm not going to explain Enochian magic. We've done that. That's on Unified Magic Part 30 or something. It's on YouTube. Enochian magic explained at the level of Illuminism by Tim. So you could also say that the 7-7 is also the ram's horn spiral, which is the Elohim's earth code, parameter code for putting love into the grid, and the manifestation of love. And I've said this before, and still most people won't believe me, that they hid a negative code in each spiral, which was death and destruction and anti-good. And I think the 7 that he chooses the 7 is the first 7, which is death and destruction, but we'll come back to that. So he does his 7 years, but the 2 guys in either cell, they don't leave prison, they disappear, and it's never explained in the movie. So all of a sudden they're gone, and there's no sign of that they were ever there. So what the fuck, what happened? If you go back to Mud Shadows and Carlos Castaneda and Don Juan and everything, they talk about remanifesting the body into the real world. I'm not going to explain that. It's in the books. People can look it up, whatever. But when you remanifest yourself, you disappear and then reappear in the real world. And that's what that showed, is that you can do that. So the guys either side of Jason Statham, they are modern-day shamans. So they are there to teach Jason Statham something, and they're going to play the long game because they know they just can't tell him because he won't believe it. So he gets out of prison, and there's that thing where he falls down the stairs, and the guy gives him a card. That's shamanism again. He knows what's going to happen. Blah blah blah. And then they say he's going to die. Well, what it is in layman's terms, if he'd have understood it, they could have said, well, you've got this parasite in you, and it's going to batter the shit out of you now that you're out of prison, and it'll probably kill you within 3 days. So he's got 3 days to get the parasite out of him, but they haven't told him that. So he also does the other thing, which is honour the threat. So if someone does something really bad to you and it's really negative, and it's something that they would gain a lot of karma from, any karma really, the last thing you ever want to do is forgive them. I know a lot of people aren't going to believe this, because this is one of the traps of Metatron, and this is called the Metatron principle. If you forgive someone that did evil to you, you take on the karma that they got from doing that to you. So not only do you suffer for what they did to you, but you then suffer for them doing it in the first place and you allowing it to happen. So to stop that, you honour the threat. And that is what Jason Statham does to Ray Liotta. And Ray murdered his sister-in-law, but Jason Statham ended up in prison. But anyone who's watched the film knows what happened there. I don't have to explain it. And we're going to now talk about Mr. Gold. Now, Mr. Gold, there's another thing. So through the film, when they're sitting down, the two shamans are sitting down with Jason Statham and talking to him, a lot of the time they say, wake up, look around you. And what I say to people watching the film is, actually look around the room and see what's in the room. Because every single book that they passed through to Jason Statham is sitting right in front of him while they're talking to him, and he can't even see it. So what they're saying to you is, it's right in front of you. Open your eyes. It's right there. So, Mr. Gold. Mr. Gold cannot be seen. No one gets to see Mr. Gold, and no one speaks to Mr. Gold. Yet there is someone in the film that speaks to Mr. Gold, and that's the woman with the sunglasses and the dark hair. Now, when you have this parasite in you, you've got the Archons, and we'll explain all this at the end. They're vampires. Between the Archon vampire and the human that has the Zion parasite in the top of their brain, there's what's called an Archon nurse. An Archon nurse is in charge of so many parasites in humans. So it could be one, I don't know, for every 100,000 people. I don't know the exact figure. I've never asked him. It could be 500,000 or 1 million people, all looked after by this one supernatural spirit. And that's what this woman represents. So she can contact Mr. Gold, but no one else can. And Ray goes to try and see Mr. Gold, and look at how he reacts. He's very timid and scared. Oh, it's Mr. Gold, And he never gets any answers, because Mr. Gold never gives anyone any answers, ever, which is why I'm telling you all this. So when Jason Statham mentions to other people who he's working with, and this, for me, this is my favourite moment in the whole film, when he says to them, I'm working for what are their names? Avi and Zach, and I don't know the exact words or how it goes, but other people are saying, yeah, but why are you working with them? Even Mr. Gold won't touch them. It's like, what? It's never explained in the film, but why won't Mr. Gold touch Avi and Zach? Because they're shamans that don't have parasites, and they're waking someone else up so that they've got this parasite inside him. And the moment when Jason Statham actually gets that parasite out of his brain is when he's in the lift, and I'm thinking, Avi or Zach, the big guy, Zach, I think so. When he's pointing the gun at his head and he gets it out. Well, how does Jason Statham react after that? He's no longer confused. Whereas before that moment, we hear a monologue of him having a conversation with himself, sort of thing. Well, it's not. He's always having a conversation with this ion parasite in his head. And now it's out. And he changes. He's more calm. He knows what he's doing. He's thinking better. So he goes after Ray, Mr. M. And when he meets him at the end, remember he's in at the swimming pool. He goes to find him, and he walks into the room and just looks at him. And there's that bit before where he walks past. He's pointing a gun at his head, and he's got almost tearing up. Jason Statham. Oh, that's it, in the bedroom. That's it. He goes to see him, and he doesn't give a shit. He's like, I don't care. And then he walks out, and Ray doesn't know what to do. He's like, well, he's scared now. He's petrified. And then at the end, they go to the swimming pool, and Jason's just standing there, and he's like, I'm not fearful of any of this because I don't have it in me. It's not part of me. And the parasite inside Ray, and by the way, Mr. Green is called Mr. Green because of the green line of Abraham. The red line is for all the bad things. That's the road that Ray ends up on. And they show that in the film by when Ray's in a couple of his rooms, whatever, you see red things placed here and there. That's to show he's on the red line, which Guy Ritchie must have known. He's probably learnt a lot of that from Madonna. Plus, he probably learnt about the mud shadows from Madonna. I don't know. So, in the end, what does Mr. M do? He puts the gun up to his head and shoots himself because the parasite's gone, you ain't kicking me out. If I'm going, you're going. Bang. And that's it, mate. And a lot of people that are suicided is done through these parasites. And then there's no comeback on anyone. Prove it. You get someone's parasite to make them suicide and you've killed them, prove it. It's like psychic warfare. Prove it. It works. So you try proving it. Sure, try and prove that in a court of law. You can't. So Mr. Gold. It's all about Mr. Gold. Mr. Gold is the satanic force. Yaldabaoth. You could say Satan. Now I can tell you now that Yaldabaoth no longer exists in this multiverse. That's the demiurge. I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to argue with me about this and not believe it, but it doesn't matter anymore because Yaldabaoth is dead. That's quite a big deal because Yaldabaoth is the demiurge, the creator of this multiverse. But that's chaos evil. Now, that's a whole nother thing to talk about. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to read something that Tim wrote, and there's no interference. I've just put my phone on a massive mixing desk. I don't know if there's any interference coming through.
No, it's clear.
Right, so,
it's clear.
This is when I first learned about this.
But you are a bit quiet on it.
Something that you wrote many years ago, and it's a short couple of paragraphs out of something really long. But I've never forgotten this, and it was reading this and watching. I only watched Revolver 3 weeks ago, after not watching it for years, and I just went, oh my God, it's right there in front of us. And what I'm about to read you is what made me suddenly work it out, really. I suppose decode Revolver, I don't know. So this is what Tim said. One's life work is to be food for vampires. At the top of the pyramid of vampires is the demiurge creator of the Matrix, the vampire lord of the Gnostics, Yaldabaoth, Yaldabaoth, an evil, spiteful eater of all that is man, from their soul to the body eaten by bacteria, worms, insects, which are all possessed by the underlyings of Yaldabaoth. Beelzebub, the lord of the flies, the chaos spiders of arachnid, all aspects of vampirism. There we go. So, death. The energy body of man has a weak spot. We talked about this before, the gap. The gap in the midsection, an apple-sized indentation that acts as a concave dish to receive the negative aspect of the rolling force. So we age super quickly. Anyone wants to understand that, read Carlos Castaneda, The Fire from Within. It explains all of that. Eventually, it becomes so weakened that death can rupture the energy body to release our soul, as the energy bodies are ruptured. To rupture even the weakened energy body, we must have death chaos energy intense inside the human energy body. This is done by chaos evil injecting itself as a walk-in into the human. How is this done? As a foreign installation, Zion, which is a zombie installation operating negatively, and it must be inserted into the baby child. To do this, now it's going to sound controversial, but I'm just going to tell you all how it is and what this is. Anyway. To do this, a Judas evil walking Satanist must interact with the baby child. Parents talk to the baby and it listens. A supernatural spirit, Zion, Judas evil walking Satanist, talks to the baby. The so-called imaginary friend all young children have. They normally talk to them in dreams. So the Zion is normally forced into the sleeping, dreaming young child that is learning to speak by a supernatural spirit, the Archon Nurse. Judas evil walking Satanist that looks like the baby's parent in its dreams. So it trusts this being because it makes itself look like its parent. The child willingly accepts its Zion from the false evil parent's supernatural spirit. Once this is done, the child starts up an internal dialogue with the Zion. The Zion then takes over the conversation and as a false parent takes over control of the body. The real human awareness remains baby-like and obeys its Zion walking false parent, controller possessor. By the time the body matures, the real human awareness is still held as a baby. The Zion is now taken to be the human awareness, and I think Tim speaks about Revolver here. The film Revolver, starring Jason Statham, Mr. Hard as Nails, directed by Madonna's ex-husband, Guy Ritchie, correctly shows the Zion called Mr. Gold in the film as the summation of all Zions, Yaldabaoth, Yaldabaoth. The anti-hero who rids himself of his possessor with the help of two modern shamans, the Conman Supremo and the Chess Master, is called Mr. Green. The green line of Laubarath, which is the Abraham ritual, or the green line of Abraham. It's obvious the Illuminati have to tell the public the truth, so the public can't say you did not tell us. This is vital for cosmic law. As a rat catcher, you have to tell them the way out of the rat trap. Knowing the victim will never believe you. It also explains why the protocols of Zion refer to the possessed Goyim as children. They are children, their awareness frozen as a small child by the Zion supernatural spirit possessor. And that's it, mate. And everyone should know, and most people will never believe this. I've said that so many times, that, you know, as they say in the film, your greatest enemy hides in the last place you'll ever expect to see it, and that's inside you. And there's another thing of, this. You asked me earlier about knowing. You know, how do you know? You know, and the voice, but there's something else as well. You can have another voice in there if you so want it, and that's your higher self. And I'm telling you, and I'm sure thousands of people are going to shout at me. All the people light working, talking to their higher selves, you're not talking to your higher self. You're talking to the Zion installation, the Zion Parasite. Unless you have actually travelled into other worlds and sought out your own holy guardian angel, which is part of you that exists in the multiverse. Unless you've actually knowingly gone and found that, brought it back here into base reality and possessed yourself with yourself, you do not have a higher self. And everyone that will argue me with that, I'll say to you, how do you know that? Where did you get that information from? And most people will tell me it came from channeling. The aliens told us, the supernatural spirits told us. And I'm asking you, why the fuck didn't they tell you about all of this? If they're all so important and they're all so important for humanity and our future, why didn't they tell any of you about this? None of them told you about this. I've told you. It shouldn't have come to me having to tell everyone, but I am. You know, and the next video that we do, I'm going to explain to you, everyone, how grey aliens are made. And all these aliens, these greys that are us from the future, that claim to be us, I'm going to explain to you why they really are us from the future and why they shouldn't be here, and they all need to just disappear and go, and we don't need them. Because those... Yeah, anyway, I'm not going to... I'm going to talk about it in the next video.
You mean not this one?
No.
Please.
All right, I'll give you a little bit then, but I won't go into it.
Please. Please tell us.
Grey aliens are made from the obelisks and the cenotaphs. Not every obelisk. There are some good obelisks out there. The ones built on by the Freemasonic obelisks, they are there mostly to honour the dead soldiers that died for Zion. And when people gather around those obelisks and the cenotaph, especially in London, I just think they all do that in London. It's ridiculous watching it on the telly, you know. It's such a ritual, you know. What they're doing there is getting millions of people around the world to focus their attention on the stone. What that does, you give this energy, it's a positive energy, goes to the stone, and you have these beings. So we talk about killing Yaltabaoth's dead. You've then got Jehovah and some other stuff. Jehovah's such a hard thing to take on, but that's another story. But linked to that, you've got the cherubim and the seraphim. The seraphim, I used to dream about the seraphim and talk to them and think they were my friends. They were these great angels, and I have seraphim crystals. They're reptilians. They don't look like that. They are reptilians. They make the grey damn soul. People that die in wars for the Illuminati, things that are removed from them when they die and go off and recycled, it all goes through this grid system. And they make damned souls, damned grey souls, and they turn this, they take the energies that comes into the obelisk, they reverse it, invert it, or whatever, to make it negative, and then they can then generate these damn souls. The damn souls are then put into people, because all your souls are trapped in the middle place, even now. Yeah, you've got your soul, but you're not using it, you're using a different one. And it's like 90% of all Westerners this has happened to. Now people go, no, that's not happened to me, I'm this, I'm that. I don't care, I don't want to hear it. It's happened. This is how bad it is. So what that means is that all the humans that lost their true souls into the 12 Eon Cypres in the middle place, and all that is 12 levels of hell, and while your soul's there, it's like being trapped in another space, it gets tortured by the Archons, and it gets grouped. So all the homeless people are in one section. All the people that made lots of money and then lost everything are in another section. All the people in prison are in another section. And there are groups of suffering. And this is how they do it. They do it via your soul, which affects your physical body in the real world. Yeah, it's mad. So all the people that ended up without their human souls, and they got these seraphim reptile snake shit damn souls put in them, in the future they can't sustain themselves because they don't have human proper souls. So they end up looking like the GRAY aliens, the ones that say they're us in the future. So when they say they come back here to save us, no, they're not human anyway. It's a different thing that's taken humanity over. That's not humanity. So now they're back here now. Yeah, they can't succeed on Earth because, you know, what we've done, we've made every church and cathedral on the planet a hell engine, which affects the aliens. You won't see an alien go anywhere near a church on this planet. You might see one die near one or crash a UFO near one, but they won't hang around near one. No way. You know, we can't allow it because this is the base reality and the timeline. The only timeline out of all of them where this happens. There's no agendas in the future. There's no Zion in the future. This is the one where they get defeated. I know it's hard to see and hard to believe because of what's happening around. And I've said this before. It's all white noise. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. In 100 years, it won't. All this is happening now. All the silly little things on the internet, they don't mean anything, do they? Because they don't mean anything. Whether Trump's president or the other one's it doesn't matter. You know, it doesn't matter. And everyone's arguing about voting, even the people that want to get out of what we're stuck in, and they all want to be free. Well, don't vote. Don't talk about voting. Don't argue about voting because voting damns your soul. Don't do it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that someone cheated in the election. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. None of it matters because Zion's on its way out and Yaltabayot's dead. So I know no one will see that or believe that yet. And you can't just, when you've got something that created so much evil out of chaos and you cut the head off it, the rest of it's still there for quite some time before you get rid of it all. And yeah, you can see it. You know, you can see nothing yet till at least 2025. There you go. Anyway, there you go, mate. I've said quite a lot, actually.
No. Well,
in more detail. I'll tell you how they can use the water pools next to the obelisks to take your bioplasm. And then when these supernatural spirits come out of the obelisk, they take a charge and they get a boost from the water pool and they get to jump on the person walking past and possess them and stuff. And these attachments, you know, a lot of light workers can relate to the attachments, and someone comes along and takes a couple of attachments off you. Yeah, that's very well. But if it's a shaman taking it off you, and I'm sorry if there's any shamans listening, but even you guys have got this parasite, and you're all possessed by chaos. Now, everyone can argue with me about that. It doesn't matter. It's infested. It's got to the point of infestation, and that's why we came forward the way we did, why we do what we do. This is the basis of it all, everything. And you can't just fight chaos forever. You have to take it over. You have to take over. You have to sequester every single thing they created. You can't just fight it and destroy it, because you're just generating more chaos. You have to actually kick the driver out of the seat and take control of it. So, I hope that gives some people some more understanding behind what we do, why we do what we do. But
and how do they contact him, or how do they contact you? Just put comments on this video, Base 88.
No one contacts Tim. Tim's the most multi-dimensional person I've ever met in my life. You could be standing there talking to him and he's off in two other worlds at the same time, you know. In other words, he's very busy.
He's a busy man. A busy man.
Very, very busy.
Well, thanks.
And I've got a new hashtag. Save the vote. No, hashtag save the vote. Use psychic warfare. So
say that again. Hashtag save the vote. Use psychic warfare.
Hashtag save the vote. Use psychic warfare. So if anyone wants Trump, and there's a lot of people that want Trump to get back in, there's only one way you can do it. And there's a lot. We've got a lot of customers, more customers out there than people could know or would even believe, I think. And all I'm saying to our customers is, if you're a Trump supporter and you want Trump to stay in, this is your opportunity to do it yourselves. use psychic warfare to keep something. I don't care either way. I want Biden to come in. And my friends scream at me when I say that. Why do I want Biden to come in? Because he's not protected from psychic warfare, which opens up some other countries to join in the party. And he's such an idiot, he'll just kick Zion in the nuts without even trying. So, yeah, that's the best way for me.
Deep meaning. Thank you, Duncan.
I hope all that makes sense to people.
And I think it'll make sense if they see the film. And also, which particular videos would the numbers which would help them understand that?
Yeah, and they also say in the film, one other thing I didn't mention is you can only get smarter by playing a smarter opponent. So if you're playing the opponent that's in you, that is a part of the demiurge, really. So you're playing something so big it actually created a multiverse. So beat the shit out of it and get back your humanity. But people are, and this is the other thing. I wasn't really going to say this. I'm not on a sales pitch. Don't care either way. But I have to tell people it's my job. I have to give everyone a chance. And yeah, we do sell the technology that destroys all this. And a lot of people will tell me they can do it elsewhere and there's other ways. Yeah, there's really long, difficult ways, but for some people it's impossible. You won't do it without the technology. And if you've done a Kundalini awakening, which we talked about before, when you open up each chakra, which by the way in psi space, what you think's going up is actually going down because they inverted you in psi space, the archons. When you do a full Kundalini activation, this parasite has got 7 barbs and they push into each hole and the holes close around it. And then it starts to feed your awareness. And that happened to Annie. There's a video on YouTube, Chakra Rescue by Tim Rifat. It's only 2 minutes long and he pulled the parasite out of her. I stood there watching it and it was the maddest thing I've ever seen, and it wouldn't get out. He pulled it out and it got back in. The Archon nurse came down and stood above him and he just beat the shit out of it. And Annie, she'd been to Peru, she'd done all the jungle juice stuff, everything, yeah. And Tim looked at her and he said, it is eaten so much of your awareness, there's virtually nothing left. And when you've got nothing left of your awareness, you're so fragile. You built that, it's a lifetime to build your awareness from a child, and then to start again. It's tough. It's really tough. So Tim actually built one. You can do that. You can build souls. It's incredible. And he built this awareness and installed it into her. And 2 days, even just before Tim did the chakra rescue, Annie was extremely suicidal. Came out of nowhere. All she could think about was killing herself. And that was because if the parasite kills you, the parasite can get out and be put into someone else. But that parasite knew what was coming and knew that it was going to be killed, annihilated, wiped from its existence by Tim Rifat. Total intent manifest. And I remember after it, I was filming it and I stood there and I just went, oh my God, I bet Jesus couldn't do that. But it's incredible stuff. It's mind-blowing if you can get your head around it, And Tim's militant because he's had enough of chaos evil.
Now, what does that mean?
He's had enough of the satanic force, the chaos, the crap that comes with it, and them farming all the goodness out of life. The 1%, all they're doing is farming sublime good and doing rituals on everyone else so they get to keep everything and never get any karma. We just come along and change all that. Made a lot of changes people will never understand. But that's all right. As long as I get to live in a golden age in about 40, 50 years, start rebuilding it, I don't care what anyone else does. And that does sound selfish, but, mate, we've run out of time. This is now. This is wheat from the chaff time. Right in the middle of that.
And just for the purposes of this recording, we are talking the 16th of December, 2020.
We are, yeah. Yeah, and none of this could have happened till after 2012 as well.
Any reason for that?
People think nothing happened on 2012. and you move energy in and out of your body from the left side to the right side, and it was always it was to do with circular force. And humans never had any pulsing force. There's a group of aliens, they're dark matter aliens called pulsars, and the blue pulsars pulsing force, and humans are now pulsar beings, part pulsar. Pulsar's actually enemy of the Dianites and the Archons, big enemy. That's why they anyway. So they're all good. So there are some good aliens out there, but the ones that are around here now saying they can't interfere, they can't do this, but they're here to help, and they're this, that, and the other. Yeah, can you all fuck off, please? You know, and we all know that they all have been dealing with the governments and everything. You know, yeah, let's go to Earth and help all the humans. I'll tell you what, let's all go and do deals with the satanic government and the satanic military force. Yes, that's good. And to me, it's just a no-brainer that it's all back to front and upside down. So yeah, see what happens, won't we?
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. So there we go, mate.
Well, thanks, Duncan, and also Happy Christmas. Or do you want me to say Happy Christmas to you and Annie?
Nice one. Happy Christmas and all that. So yeah.
Yeah.
Not a lot I think much of Christmas, but there you go.
Well, I don't know if we're allowed. I don't know if we are allowed to actually enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, Satan's dead, so it doesn't matter anymore. How many people aren't going to believe that? I love it.
Okay.
All right. Cheers, Mars. Speak to you soon, mate.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye, everyone. Bye. Cheers.
Goodbye.